Hi everyone, Sharon here. Today I have a flip through for you of my latest design team project for Raindrop Lila. And what I made this time was a very springy journal using some of her latest kits. And for the cover of my journal, I used an envelope that I've had sitting around my craft room for quite a number of months. I think it was about a 9 by 11 inch envelope, so the height of the journal is about 9 inches and maybe 4.5 to 5 inches wide. And what I did was cover that envelope with some sewing pattern tissue paper, and I've got quite a number of layers on there, and I just stitched that around the outside and added some lace on the spine. There was a large window on the envelope, so I just put one of these beautiful photos from the Spring Aesthetic collection inside that window. And then I also embellished with this crochet lace piece and some pretty pink ribbon and a little piece of jewelry. I don't gravitate to pink very often, but I really immersed myself in pink in this one. And that's probably the most pink you'll see for a while. Sometimes I just really get in the mood for pink, and I just love all the pink color tones of some of Lydia's kits that she's got out for spring. So I've got this sari silk ribbon for the tie. And then I also trimmed this edge with some avocado dyed paper and a little bit of punched paper on there as well. Then on the inside covers, I covered those with some scrapbooking paper and added this pocket on the side. And then to reinforce the spine, I added some book tape as well as a nice thick piece of linen. And then on the back cover, I've got this pocket where I folded the envelope over, and I just covered that with some of that sewing tissue paper on there. So it's a nice, squishy, great feeling journal, and I've got a couple of charms on the bottom there as well. I figured out that I'm really not made for one signature journals. Last time I tried to do it, it ended up turning into 3 of them, but I was bound and determined this time to stick to the one. I like to stuff them with a lot of ephemera, so it usually doesn't work out too well for me. Okay, so the first page, I've got this fabric pocket on the bottom, and then the pages, for most of the digital pages, I use that Spring Aesthetic collection. It just has some really beautiful photos, images, and they worked really good for the pages. And then also in here you'll see a number of pieces that I made from the Florabelle collection as well, and I will link those down in the description, as well as the lined paper printable kit and Lydia's Cottage Core collection. So in this first pocket, I've got a couple of collaged tags that I made. This is a spring-themed kind of maybe fashion, mid-century fashion kind of a vibe to it, I guess. Here I've added some of my coffee dyed paper and then this antique postcard. Here I embellished with this, I got a new Mackie stamp, and so I used that and just did a little pencil coloring on it and layered that with some cheesecloth on this pocket. And then in there I've got this journaling card. Added a little tea card in this pocket. And then this page I used an old vintage sewing pattern envelope. This is from the 1940s. I just love the way those ladies are dressed on there. And this is the back side of it. This page is from the Florabelle collection. Some really nice collaged images in that kit. And then one of the pretty images from the Cottage Core collection. Here on this page, I love using these vintage cookbook pages. And then on there, I took one of Lydia's envelopes and waxed it. And then in there, I've just got this little journaling card. And then on this side of the envelope, I added some trim. This is a cinnamon tea trim. And then a little wax seal on there. I also incorporated some images from a 1940s fashion magazine. This pocket I embellished a little bit, and then in there I've got a journaling sheet. And then on the back side, I just used some of Lydia's lined paper printables. They're really nice. It's just some very faint lines on there that can be used nicely for writing. And then I used one of her labels to embellish that. On this side, I just have this collage tag. On this side, I use the pattern instructions and just embellish that pocket a little bit. This image, I did not want to do anything to. I just love that image of the flowers. And then I've got this little die cut that I just clipped on there. On this side of the page, I've got this image, and then I've got this vintage German tape on there. And then I've got this little journaling card and a piece of quite fragile. Its job is just to sit there and look pretty, a piece of wallpaper. And then here I incorporated this paper doily as a page in a pocket. And in there I've got this antique French envelope or letter. Looks like from 1858. And then here I just embellished the page a little bit with some book page and washi tape. Another page from that 1940s fashion magazine. And then on this side, I folded it over and stitched down the middle to create a couple of smaller pockets. And then in there, I created these journaling cards. Printed these images on vellum. And then I just did some stenciling with some paste on the back side of these. This is this one. Here I created a top tuck and did some stenciling with paste again on there. And then in there I tucked a couple of pieces. I did some of my watercoloring on a book page. And then I printed this bird image, this is from one of Lydia's kits as well, onto some vintage French notebook paper. And then I just added a little embellishment with the string at the bottom and stamped along the top. And then there's room to journal on the back side. Here I've got another little side tuck, and in there I inserted this journaling card. Here I clipped on one of my vintage button cards. I've been hanging on these for quite a while, and I thought it's time to use some of these up, so I put one of these in here. In the center of the signature, this is also an image from one of Lydia's latest kits, an embroidery pattern. And then I've got this dotted tulle that I used for a fabric flip on this side with some lace on the top. And then I created this little tuck down on this side. And then I've got this little tag and this antique postcard. Here I took one of my vintage button cards, but it didn't have any buttons on it. So I just embellished it with a little piece of velvet ribbon on the top, and then I made my own buttons. I punched out some of the images from the Floribel kit, these collage pieces in the back, and layered up that with some of my own paper buttons from one of my kits. I just thought that added a nice little touch on there. On this page, I've got this little bunny card. And then on this top tuck on this side, I've got another one of my watercolor sample sheets, and then another sheet with the bird image on it. Here I made a belly band with one of the floral images and just kind of notched that out on each side. And then in there I tucked this sheet from a vintage French notebook. And then on this side of the page, I just added this little embellishment on the top with the lace, some ribbon, and some script on there. Here's another page from that fashion magazine from the 40s. They all look quite serious. And then over here I added a belly band. And then in there I tucked this sheet from a vintage embroidery magazine, pattern on there, and a piece of Florentine paper. Here's the other side of that doily. I just left this pocket empty, but it can be used to tuck something in there. And then at the top of this page, I've got this avocado paper, and I just took some sari silk ribbon and folded it over and added this wax seal on there. In this pocket, I've got this little journaling card. This is actually a paper doily that I printed on. And this is a vintage label, a clothing label. I got a number of those on eBay a while back and just added that to the top of the page. And then in this pocket, I've got another one of those large writing sheets, if I can get it open, with the lined paper on the back. On this page, I again used some sari ribbon and just kind of folded it over, stitched it up in the form of a little bit of a ruffle, and then I added these shell buttons on there. Here I just added a little bit of this pink. There's a kit from GT Designs that I absolutely love. It's got some corally pink laces in it, and I use those a lot. On this page, I've got a little bit of a personal touch. This is my mother in her wedding dress. Back side of that, and then another piece of antique wallpaper. Here I created a vellum pocket with one of the floral images from the Spring Aesthetic, and then I inserted this journaling piece. Got to have some bunnies in here for spring, right? The other side of that sewing envelope. And then here, this pocket, I've got another one of those Mackie stamps that I just added a little bit of color to it, and this faux button. And then in this pocket, I've got a journaling sheet. This is an image from the Cottage Core collection. And then on the back, I just did some very light stenciling in this pale pink. I think it's called Tattered Rose. And then just layered up some tulle and paper on there. And then on the other side, I've got this tag that I clipped in. And then on this last page, in this pocket, I've just got a vintage kind of haberdashery piece. I really like the font on there. And that is it for this journal. Something a little different for me. I didn't use a book cover. I really like making these kind of squishy covers, so something different. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. This is a journal that is going off to a special lady later this week, so I hope she enjoys it. Thanks everyone for joining me. Until next time, bye-bye.